And welcome back to the Kenny and JT show here on News Talk 1480 WHBC. And we are thrilled to have with us the head coach of the McKINLEY Bulldogs after his first win ever as the head coach of those Bulldogs, Antonio Hall, joining us today. Coach, congratulations on your first win and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Truly, it's a team effort. It's all my guys, but thank you. It's good to get in the W column.
And look at my partner. Look at that helmet he has behind him. Coach, what do you think?
When you introduced the coach, I thought you were talking to me because this looks more like a coach's office than that does.
Hey, don't talk about my Kentucky Blue. Those are fighting words.
I hear you, man. But you know what? This is a great week for us. And as I text you on the way back, what a great bus trip back from Huber Heights. Wayne, tell us about it.
It was great, man. I mean, it was great just to have that bonding experience, having those 3 hours just to reflect on, you know, some of the things we went through this summer, some of the things we went through this season, and just starting to turn the corner, hopefully, as a program.
Coach, no easy task. You know, when you started the season, we had joked about it at the coaches show when you said that you were going to have to fire your athletic director, who happens to be yourself. You opened the season with Mentor. No easy task. The next game, no easy task with Austintown Fitch. We were looking at this game kind of in the same light. What changed?
I think it was just our preparation. I think by far it was our best week of practice last week. And guys see now that, you know, what we do on Fridays is a culmination of the work we put in Monday through Thursday. And I think everything just kind of fell into place. Guys were very focused on the road. They visualized a lot. And I told them, I said, you know, the greatest reward on going on a road trip like that is partying all the way back after a big victory. And we were able to accomplish that.
Right.
All right, defensively, Coach, what changed? 91 points given up in the first 2 weeks, only 12 on the road in week number 3 in that win over Huber Heights. Wayne, what changed defensively specifically?
I think just guys settling into the scheme, you know, understanding the big picture. I mean, we have a lot of first-year players and a lot of underclassmen playing. So just understanding the scheme, having a couple games under their belt, having Harold Fannin back there in the secondary helped a lot. So I think it was just guys settling in and getting more comfortable in what we're trying to accomplish.
Obviously, the focus was on the run game last week. Talk a little bit about that and how you had success.
Well, I mean, our thing was until they stop the run, we're going to run right at them. And, you know, didn't see many adjustments from them. A couple they tried to make late in the game. I think our offensive coordinator, Veggie Bardwell, had good answers for him, and we were able to keep that success going. And the fact that we're starting to emerge as a true two-tailback system, with Trey Mackey and Chris Williams, Little Thunder and Lightning, which gives defenses a couple different styles of running to prepare for.
They combined for 205 yards, 3 touchdowns in the win, and Amarian Williams threw a touchdown pass, but you're still playing 2 quarterbacks, Coach. So my question to you about that is this. Did you use the first 3 games to try to determine who your starter is going to be, or are we going to see 2 quarterbacks moving forward with this team throughout the year?
We're going to see 2 quarterbacks until I feel that that system is no longer effective for this football team.
Is either one inching their way towards, though, maybe being that guy, or is it still, up in the air at this point?
I think it's still up in the air. I think both of us give us a spark. I think both of them are gradually getting better. I think both of them has strengths and weaknesses. I think that their weaknesses, though, are things that can be corrected. And as they move through those weaknesses and start to be able to identify certain things that we want them to identify, maybe one will emerge as the guy. But for now, both are doing great. Both are processing information great. Both are taking steps forward as quarterbacks great. So, again, until one of them separates themselves, we're going to keep a 2-quarterback system.
That's really important, too. And the one thing that we always know about McKINLEY football is the fact that you separate yourself through leadership. And I like to talk intangibles a lot when I talk about football because we can talk about statistics until the cows come home. But
Mhm.
one thing we know about Camp McKinley football is that it's based on tradition and a lot of leadership. Are you seeing some of these younger guys take over the role as leaders on your team?
I do. And I think we have a tremendous captain class this year, with Stephen Monahan, Chris Williams, the Ruffin twins, and Creed Patterson. I mean, these guys are just phenomenal young people. And with them buying into what we're selling as coaching staffs, as a culture, and then that permeating through them and the rest of the team, again, you couldn't ask for 5 better captains, especially in the situation that we inherited. And we have young guys. You know, I'm really high on guys like Alice Vasquez, Sean Pirolosi, a lot of these younger sophomores who are starting to see playing time because they're buying in and starting to see the success through the work that they put in. So
that goes a long way too, Kenny, because like what I always say is the fact that once you establish the leadership role on your team, that alleviates some of the work of the head coach. And now you can just basically focus on coaching and not the disciplinary actions and the factions of the leadership role, and let them basically discipline themselves.
And that is the true mark of a successful program. When you're player led as a program, to me, you've reached the pinnacle.
Nice.
Because accountability is there across the board. And like you said, now coaches can worry about coaching and not worry about policing and babysitting.
Talking with Antonio Hall, head coach of the McKinley Bulldogs. They're 1-2 coming into the Week 4 contest at Perry Friday night. We'll have that game for you here on WHBC. We'll get to that in a second. But, Coach, you mentioned the two-headed monster of Trey Mackey, Chris Williams running the ball, the two-headed monster of Keaton Rohde and Amarian Williams throwing the football. Harold Fannin, though, whoever the quarterback is, how can you not like throwing to Harold Fannin? That's a hell of a target, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, he's a hell of a player. I mean, offense, defense, kicking the ball, returning. I mean, this guy does it all. And he does it in really good fashion. Great competitor. He's just one of those guys that's a football player. Like, it doesn't matter what position you put him, he could play left tackle and he'll have success. I mean, he's a football player. A lot of guys play football, but there are guys who are football players, and he's one of them.
Well, it's funny because we talked to Ted Ginn Jr. last week, and we were talking about just that. Will there be packages for Fannin when you don't want to throw him the ball?
There are going to be several Fannin packages, both as him and, again, maybe use him as a decoy. But you always have to account. If you're a defense, you always have to account for him on the field. You have to.
All right, on the defensive side of the ball, Nehemiah Sapaia, another one of the Sapaia boys. Are there still more coming through the pipeline after him, or is he the last one, Coach?
Well, that's the last boy, but there are a lot of girls, and a couple of them wrestle, so you never know. They could end up playing football. And if they're tough as their brothers, hell, I want them on my team.
I understand that. He had 2 big sacks for you last week. What does he bring to that defense besides we know the toughness that is in the Sapaia family?
Just a great knowledge of the game. I mean, you know, when your dad is an NFL player and a longtime coach, and you have 2 older brothers that play Division I college football, I mean, you just conceptualize a lot of football knowledge. Great motor. He's a wrestler, so, I mean, you know, he's just mentally and physically tough. Great at contorting his body, bending his body, being able to squeeze through holes, get great bend on pass rushes. So across the board, I look for him to really have a high ceiling moving forward, because sky's the limit for a guy like that.
Coach, what about this week at practice? You know, usually you lose to a team, a conference team like Perry the year before, and it's payback week every day at practice. Are you seeing a lot of that? Is there a lot of payback chance? And are the kids really focusing in on, you know, we got to get that payback win?
I think so. I think it's more of the fact that, you know, they've won 6 out of the last 7 contests. And, you know, our guys want to reestablish themselves as, you know, the who's who in the Federal League and Stark County. So, you know, I think more so it's more about us this week and making sure that we don't have a letdown or a fall off after a big win, and we keep pushing this thing forward as our progression, because it doesn't matter who we play next week or the week after that. If we continue to get better, our thing is the only people who can stop us are ourselves. So that's been our emphasis. That's what we're going to keep emphasizing. And again, the focus is more so on us and not who we're playing.
What about the schemes on defense? Because it is a little bit about who you're playing when they run that wing tee at you. Do things change for you defensively?
No. The thing about that is, you have to be tremendously disciplined, tremendously sound. Your eyes can't wander. You have to really read your keys and your target. So, we're going to see how disciplined of a team we are this week, because we play a very disciplined team. And to beat the wing tee, you have to be disciplined. So we'll see how disciplined we are as a team come Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Two first-year head coaches in two big programs in Stark County. Coach Slate's got his first win, but they've played 3 overtime games in a row. You got your first win, so that's out of the way. You check that off the box. But like you said, this is the Federal League lid lifter. This is the first game. You're on the road at Perry, and let's add this in there. They're going to dedicate the stadium to Keith Wakefield on Friday night over there at Perry. How do you make sure your guys handle that emotion that Perry will be coming out swinging with in that first quarter?
Well, we've talked about it, intensity and what that means. And, ultimately we have to match or surpass whatever teams are playing intensity. And that situation plays exactly on what we're talking about. So, again, if we come in focused like we did last week, because it was a very hostile environment last week. It was cool just to get into a true old-fashioned high school ambiance where people are right on top of you. Fans are, saying whatever they are to you. But, it's good to feel that and get that feeling. So I expect much of the same when we go to Perry this week. This
week's a little bit more special to you, though, because you and Slates grew up together, right?
Yep. We, Holy Trinity boys, Goya boys, so 2 offensive linemen too. We go back and have many, many similarities.
So Sunday morning at church, who gets the confession first, you or Slates?
I guess it depends on the result from Friday night.
Right.
So, Coach, would this be the ideal game, though, since you've got 2 offensive linemen as head coaches going head-to-head in the Federal League, that neither of you guys throw the ball? You just run the ball every play on both sides and then see who comes out on top.
That's the lineman's dream.
The game will be over in 35 minutes.
Right.
Antonio Hall joining us here on the Kenny and JT show. We've got their game, McKINLEY at Perry, this Friday night. It's the Sarchione Ford radio game of the week. And like we said, it's the Federal League lid lifter, first game of the season in the league for both teams. How important is it, Coach, to take the win that you got last week and keep the momentum moving forward and stack those wins together and build that confidence as you head into this Federal League?
I think it's very important. Especially, again, having a team that doesn't have a lot of playing experience and a lot of young guys playing, that we continue to compound these things and augment these things so that our confidence does continue to grow, and, we can continue to evolve to be coached and coach these guys, because, the more you win, the more guys buy in, the more you're able to coach them up, the harder you're able to coach them. So this is what builds programs. So we have to keep it going.
Talk about yourself a little bit, being the head coach now, not that you're a stranger to being on the sidelines, but talk about getting that monkey off your back, getting that first win. And we always hear the term, the game is slowed down. Has the game slowed down a little bit for you as a head coach?
I don't think it's slowed down. As the head coach, there's just so many things to account for. Mm-hmm. So many things to manage, especially during the game. So no, it hasn't slowed down a bit, but hopefully as we continue to get our operation down and our game management down, our game operation down, guys get more comfortable with substitution packages and all that. We just all get more comfortable with it.
When you applied for the job a couple of years ago, and obviously you didn't get it, but we know what happened. Is it everything you thought it would be, or is it tougher? Or is it something you think you would like to do moving forward?
I mean, this truly is a an uncharacteristic situation for the program. This is an unprecedented situation for the program. Um, just as far as the community being split. I mean, you still have a lot of people that support McKINLEY, but right now you have a lot of people who don't, just given the circumstance. So it has been a little challenging just to keep my guys focused on what's important and what's in the locker room and leave all that community stuff out there, because it's Canton. Hey, you can go 10-0 in a state championship. There's still people that want to get you fired and don't want to see you succeed. That's just comes with the job at Canton McKINLEY. So, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade the challenge for the world. Again, I'm built for it because I was made by this program, made by the men that came from this program. And ultimately, I can show my kids firsthand how you deal when overcome adversity.
One more thing about that first win, Coach, because you were put into a unique situation, a very tough situation, right? And some kids didn't come back, right? We understand that. You lost some kids. But the ones that did, how much does that win last week help you make them understand that we know what we're talking about? If you do what we're telling you to do, it can end in victory, and getting that through their head for them to buy into your system if they weren't sure when you first took the job.
I think it's huge. I mean, ultimately, kids, especially kids these days, unless you have a relationship with them, they're not going to listen to you. And it's hard for coaches to come in a couple of weeks before the season and build these relationships as we're trying to evaluate, as we're trying to game plan, as we're trying to set schemes, as we're trying to do so this is definitely, again, very unorthodox, but I think seeing success, like you said, helps the kids buy in because we haven't had that time to develop the relationships that we want yet. It's an ongoing process. So I think it's huge.
And I always ask this question when we have the coaches on leading into our Sarchione Ford Radio Game of the Week. You're going up against Perry, Coach Slate's the wing tee, but a lot of it depends on what you do. So what are the keys for McKINLEY if they're going to get a win on the road in the first Federal League game on Friday night?
Well, I think, again, we have to travel well like we did last week. We have to be extremely focused. We have to be ready to match their intensity, like you said. I mean, it's a big night for their community. So we just have to come in and hit on all cylinders. We have to start fast. And if more than anything else, we have to finish. I mean, Perry, you know how they are. They're a tough team. Even when they're down, they're not out. So it's going to be 4 quarters of football, no matter what the score is. So as long as we come in and we're ready to go, I think we will be fine.
Kenny likes to ask a question, name a couple of keys to a victory. I like to ask the question, what have you learned about yourself and your squad?
I learned that these guys are a lot tougher than what people give them credit for. These guys are very resilient. They want to be good. They're here for a reason. They stayed for a reason because they believe in this program. And about myself, I mean, that's an ongoing evolution. But I'm just learning again how much there is to account for and how much management is involved with being the head guy, especially in the situation that we're in. So, but again, I have great coaches around me, great kids to coach. So everything is very worthwhile.
Well, Coach, I'm going to offer you a little bit of advice. Perry's played 3 games, and all 3 went to overtime. I don't know if you have practiced overtime situations yet, but you might just want to spend a few minutes on that this week before you play Friday.
Good call.
Gears in your office.
Look at that. Oh, gosh. Antonio, thanks so much for making time for us here on the Kenny and JT Show. I'll see you Friday on the sidelines, and we'll be chatting, I'm sure, either at halftime or after the game at the game at Perry. All right?
Sounds good.
There he is, the head coach of the McKINLEY Bulldogs, Antonio Hall, joining us here on the Kenny